What's up mga kascience? So we're going to talk about the nervous system in this video, which coordinates the activities of the body and communicates with other body systems. So every day you do complex activities. As you perform these activities, your nervous system controls and coordinates your body parts. Your nervous system reacts to any change inside or outside your body, such as change is a stimulus that triggers a response. In this chapter, you will learn how stimulus triggers the brain, spinal cord, and nerves to constantly communicate with each other. You will discover how impulses travel along neurons. Moreover, you will learn some of the disorders of the nervous system and the importance of proper care and practice of good, helpful habits. For our chapter concept map, the nervous system is affected by disorders and diseases which can be prevented by proper care or with proper care. So the nervous system is divided into the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. The CNS is composed of the brain and spinal cord, while the PNS consists of neurons like sensory neurons, motor neurons, and are linked by interneurons. Motor neurons are found in the muscles for desired response. It is amazing to know that your body is able to perform a number of activities at the same time. A dancer moves his or her body as he or she thinks of the next step to execute and listen to the music. This tells you that your nervous system is in action. So the nervous system is divided into two parts, again, the central and the peripheral nervous system. The central nervous system consists of the brain and spinal cord, while the peripheral nervous system consists of the cranial and spinal nerves. The peripheral nervous system is a network of nerves that transmits messages to the CNS or central nervous system. The central nervous system acts as the command center. It links the CNS to the muscles and other organs. Your nervous system performs several important functions. Number one, it collects and receives information from inside the body and from outside the environment to facilitate response. The second one is it directs thought processes like memory, intelligence, and learning. Third, it controls movement and balance. Like when you play basketball, your nervous system sends messages to your muscle to dribble the ball. Your nervous system is made out of specialized cells called neurons or nerve cells. They store information and carry messages within the nervous system and between the other body systems. So in this picture, the neuron is divided into three parts: the axon, the cell body, and dendrite. How would you distinguish one from the other? Let's start first by talking about the cell body. The cell body is the main part of the neuron. It contains the nucleus, which contains genetic information. The branch-like extensions on the cell body are called dendrites. Dendrites receive messages from other neurons. Nerve impulses travel along the dendrite to the cell body. As you know, neurons can have more than one dendrite. Other dendrites can have many branches. Lastly, we have an axon. It extends from the cell body and often gives rise to many smaller branches before ending at the nerve terminals. It carries electrical messages away from the cell body and passes them to other cells. Now, the axon is wrapped with what we call the myelin sheath. This one is a fat-like substance that accelerates the transmission of nerve impulses along the axon. Myelinated axons transmit nerve impulse faster than those that are not. Neurons may be classified based on the direction in which they send information to and from the body. They can be sensory, motor, or interneurons. Let's start first by talking about sensory neurons. Sensory neurons send information from the environment toward the brain and spinal cord. The motor neuron carry messages away from the brain or spinal cord to your muscles or glands, causing them to react or move. Lastly, interneuron, which sends information between sensory neurons and motor neurons. Most interneurons are located in the central nervous system. Now let's trace how nerves transmit messages. Your neurons are like wires spread all over your body to transmit information. However, gaps and spaces separate them. Information from one neuron flows to another neuron across what we call a synapse. A synapse is the tiny space that separates the neurons. Along a neuron, nerve impulses travel from the dendrite to an axon to the next neuron. Notice that the dendrites of one neuron is always next to the axon of the next neuron, as you can see here in the picture. When stimulated, axon releases acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter. The acetylcholine molecules diffuse across the synapse. Special receptors at the tip of the dendrite of the next neuron bind with the acetylcholine. Thus, the transmission of messages continues. The central nervous system, or CNS, is composed of major organs, the brain and the spinal cord. Let us look at each part to better understand how they work. So the brain weighs 1.3 to 1.4 kilograms. It houses about 100 billion nerve cells and trillions of support cells called the glial cells or glia. Your brain is an amazing organ that performs different functions. It is also responsible for higher thinking processes, including memory, judgment, and reason. It controls body movement and regulates body processes. Your emotions and feelings are also controlled by your brain. Now, the brain is divided into the cerebrum, the cerebellum, and the brainstem. The cerebrum is divided into two cerebral hemispheres, the left and the right, which functions for various intelligences. You may pause the video to look at the left and right hemisphere of the brain. The cerebrum also carries out higher thought processes that allow you to learn, make judgment and decisions, solve problems, as well as recall. So as you notice in this picture, the hemisphere of the brain controls the opposite side of the body. For example, when your left foot receives a stimuli, the right hemisphere of the brain recognizes and processes it. In the same way, left hemisphere of the brain controls the muscle when you raise your right hand to recite. The cerebellum. The cerebellum is located under the cerebrum. It is considered to be as the little brain. It coordinates muscle movement. It also helps maintain posture and balance. It receives sensory impulses from joint and muscles to help your body move precisely and smoothly. For example, when you comb your hair, the cerebellum plans how you position your arm to comb your hair. The third one is the brainstem. The brainstem connects the brain and spinal cord. It controls the involuntary activities required for life, like breathing, digestion, and heart rate. So the brain has three major parts. Let's start first with the midbrain. The midbrain controls reflex action responsible for eye movement and changes the size of the pupil to regulate the amount of light penetrating the eye. The pons has a reflex center for head movement, regulates breathing in response to visual and auditory stimuli, and passes signals between the brain and spinal cord. Lastly is the medulla oblongata. It connects the brain to the spinal cord, houses control centers for involuntary and life-sustaining functions such as blood pressure, breathing, swallowing, and vomiting. It also includes hiccup, sneezing, as well as coughing. The spinal cord bridges impulses between the brain and body. All signals that go to or from the brain pass through the spinal cord and deliver it to the right muscles. It also links the peripheral nerves to the brain for transfer of sensory and motor information. It also controls involuntary movement called the reflexes. Try to touch your back. Do you feel the bones? These are backbones or vertebrae that protect your spinal cord from injury. So you have learned that the PNS is mainly composed of nerves that transmit messages to the CNS. There are 12 pairs of cranial nerves that are connected to the brain, while 31 pairs of spinal nerves connected to the spinal cord. Look at the concept map. What does it say? Look at the concept map now about the peripheral nervous system. The peripheral nervous system is divided into the somatic nervous system and autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system is divided into the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. The somatic nervous system regulates all the voluntary movements of the body, while the autonomic nervous system controls the automatic or involuntary movement. The autonomic nervous system has the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system prepares the body for action and stress, or what we call fight or flight. The parasympathetic nervous system relaxes the body to conserve, rest, and digest, or feed or breathe. Have you ever been in a serious or dangerous situation? Such as situations stimulates your sympathetic nervous system. Your heart rate increases and breathing rate speeds up. However, if the danger is over, the parasympathetic nervous system takes over. Your heart rate and breathing rate return to normal. In the end, your body is relaxed. Sense organs are specialized organs that detect external stimuli from the environment. So sense organs are associated with different types of sensory receptors. Let's talk about that. Now, your sense organs are associated with different types of sensory receptors, starting first with the photoreceptor, which detects light and uses your eyes. Next is the mechanoreceptor, which responds to pressure and movement and tension, which uses ears and your skin. Next is your thermoreceptor, which detects the temperature, and the sense organ that is used for that is the skin. Next is the chemoreceptor. It detects chemicals. It uses your nose and tongue. Last is your pain receptor, which uses your skin, which responds to heat, cold, and pressure. So in order for us to understand more on how this works and how your motor, sensory, and interneurons work, here is a diagram. So first, a painful stimulus activates a sensory neuron. Second, the signal is transmitted by the sensory neuron to the spinal cord. Third, the signal is transmitted to an interneuron and then to a motor neuron. Fourth, the motor neuron stimulates the muscle. Last, the muscle causes a response. Now let's talk about the disorders and proper care of the nervous system. The brain, spinal cord, and nerves are affected by health problems that can lead to disorders or diseases of the nervous system. First is cerebral palsy. This one is a disability attributed to a damage in the brain occurring before, during, or immediately after birth. This condition is associated with neurological and mental problems. Second is multiple sclerosis. This one is a chronic disease affecting the nervous system resulting from the damaged and hardened myelin sheath surrounding the nerves of the brain and spinal cord. Visual disturbances, muscle weakness, and memory problems are some of the symptoms of multiple sclerosis. Third is Parkinson's disease. This one is a degenerative disorder that affects movement. A person with Parkinson's disease experiences shaking or tremor, stiff muscles, and slow movement. Fourth is epilepsy, which is characterized by overactive electrical discharges, causing temporary communication problems between the nerve cells. This also causes what we call seizures. Fifth is paralysis, which is a damage or injury of the spinal cord. It is accompanied by sensory loss and involves loss of muscle function. Sixth is concussions. This is a type of internal head injury that causes the temporary loss of brain function. Lastly would be mental retardation. It refers to a brain injury that prevents brain from developing normally. A person with mental retardation learns more slowly compared to others. He or she would have difficulties in learning and would have problems in social adjustments. For proper care for the nervous system, the helpful ways below can help maintain a functional nervous system, starting first by avoiding drugs and alcohol. Some substances or chemicals can adversely affect the nervous system. It is important to consult a doctor before taking drugs or medication. A doctor provides patients prescription guides to remind them of the right amount of drugs or medicines to take for a period of time. Patients who fail to follow the doctor's prescription or abuse the use of it may become dependent on drugs and develop addiction. Some food products contain drugs. Are you fond of drinking iced tea or soft drinks? These beverages contain caffeine. Caffeine is a drug that speeds up the activity of the nervous system. As a result, heartbeat and blood pressure may increase. Do you know someone who smokes a lot? Can they quit smoking easily? Cigarettes contain nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive substance like caffeine. Nicotine can also speed up the activity of the nervous system. It increases heart rate, blood pressure, and breathing rate. Alcohol is a drug that slows down the activity of the nervous system. Too much alcohol slows down reflexes and balance. Observe that a drunk person has difficulty walking and talking. Alcohol can also interfere with the thinking process of a person when it reaches the cerebrum. Too much alcohol can influence or affect one's behavior and mood. Next is enough sleep. Lack of sleep can also trigger severe headaches. On the other hand, enough sleep improves one's mental health and focus. It allows you to think clearly and attentively the following day.
If you have questions about the topic, feel free to type it in the comments below. If you learned something today, don't forget to like this video, and if you're interested in more educational videos to come, click that subscribe and notification bell to be notified on the latest videos. I'll see you guys on my next video. And don't forget, you are your only limit.